You made a choice to start watching this, and if I asked you why, you'd have an answer ready. The title pulled at you. You had a few minutes to spare. Something about it looked worth your time. Whatever the reason, you'd give it without hesitating, because of course you know why you do the things you do. That confidence is the most ordinary feeling in the world. It's also where this gets strange. Because there's a growing pile of evidence that the reasons you give, smooth, certain, instant, are very often not the real reasons at all. That somewhere in the dark, your mind makes a choice. And then it hands you a story about why, and you believe the story completely every single time. So the question underneath all of this is quietly unsettling. What if the you that feels so calmly in charge is reading from a script it didn't write? Start with something small. Decades ago, researchers laid 4 pairs of nylon stockings on a table and asked them to choose the highest quality pair. People chose. And they explained why this one's softer, this one's better made, the weave on this one is finer. There was only one problem. The 4 pairs were identical, the same stockings 4 times over, so there was no better pair. And yet, almost everyone leaned the same way, toward the one on the right. They preferred it by about 4 to 1. Not because of quality, because of where it happened to sit on the table. And when researchers asked whether position might have influenced them, people didn't just say no. They looked at the researchers as if the question made no sense. They had a reason. It simply wasn't the real one, and they couldn't feel the difference. Now, you could shrug that off. Stockings are trivial. Who cares why you pick one pair over another? So let's make it bigger. Let's find out if you even know what you chose at all. Picture 2 photographs, 2 faces, and you're asked a simple thing. Which one do you find more attractive? You point to one. The cards are turned face down, and a moment later, you're handed the face you picked and asked to explain what drew you to it. Except sometimes with a small sleight of hand, you're not handed the face you picked. You're handed the other one, the face you just rejected. And here's the part that's hard to believe. Most people don't notice. In the original study, fewer than 1 in 7 caught the switch. Everyone else took the rejected face, the one they'd turned down seconds earlier, and explained warmly and confidently exactly why they'd chosen it. The explanations are the part you won't forget. There was one man. He was handed a photograph of a woman he had not chosen and asked why she'd caught his eye. He looked at her, and he said she was radiant. He said he'd sooner have approached her in a bar than the other woman. He said he liked her earrings. The woman he actually chose wasn't wearing any earrings. And he wasn't lying. That's the thing you have to sit with. He wasn't covering or playing along to be polite. In that moment, he genuinely believed he had picked her, and the reasons came pouring out. Specific, sincere, even a little romantic. A whole small story built in seconds for a choice that was never his. His mind needed a reason, so it made one. And it handed it to him as the truth. He walked out of that room certain he knew his own mind. He never found out otherwise. And if this only happened with faces, you could still keep some distance from it. It doesn't only happen with faces. Researchers ran the same trick at a supermarket. Shoppers tasted 2 jams, chose the one they preferred, and were given a spoonful of their jam to taste again. Except it had quietly been swapped for the other one, sweet for bitter, mild for sharp. And people tasted the opposite of what they'd picked and nodded and explained why it was the better jam. No more than a third ever noticed. Tastes can drift, you might think. But surely the things I actually believe are solid, so they tried that too. They handed people a survey on moral and political questions, the kind of beliefs people will argue about for hours. And then, with the same hidden sleight of hand, flipped some of the answers to the opposite of what each person had written. Then they asked them to read their own answers back and explain their thinking. Most people accepted the flipped answers as their own, and then they did something stranger than just accepting them. They defended them, fluently, with feeling, building a case for the exact position they had rejected a few minutes earlier, as if it had been theirs all along. Some scientists pushed the claim even further, down into the brain itself. They've found signals that seem to rise before the moment you feel you've decided, sometimes a fraction of a second before. In one study, several seconds before. But here I have to be honest with you, because this is where the science gets loud and unsettled. That prediction was barely better than a coin toss, and a major reanalysis argued the early signal might not be a hidden decision at all. It might be little more than random noise in the brain, dressed up after the fact to look like fate. So hold that part loosely. The ground there is still shaking, but step back from the timing fight and look at what's left standing. Across all of it, The stockings, the faces, the jam, the convictions, the same shape keeps appearing. Your mind settles on something, and then it writes the reason after the fact. And the reason arrives feeling exactly like a cause, like the very thing that drove you, when it's really a story told afterward to make the choice make sense. The narrator always has an answer. That's the unsettling part. It never shrugs. It never says, I don't actually know why I did that. It would rather invent a reason than admit it doesn't have one. And you never feel the invention happen. You just feel certain. It may be the smoothest trick the mind plays, and it plays it on you constantly, not to deceive you, because a mind with no reason at all is unbearable to itself, which means it has already happened to you today. The thing you bought, was it really the price, the quality, the reasons you gave yourself? Or was it where it sat on the shelf? The order you saw things in, a mood you've already forgotten, the person across the room you found yourself drawn to, the opinion you'll defend over dinner tonight as obviously, plainly correct. The reason you gave yourself for the big one, the job, the city, the person you chose to build a life around. You have reasons for all of it, good ones. You can feel how true they are. And that feeling, that exact feeling of certainty, is the one thing you can no longer fully trust. Now, you might be pushing back. When I really sit down and think, when I weigh it slowly, carefully for days, that's real. That's me. And you're right to push, because here, the honest answer matters more than the dramatic one. This is not proof that your reasoning is a sham or that free will is a lie. The effect is sharpest for fast, throwaway choices and for the story you tell about why after it's done. And those spooky brain signals, the ones that seem to beat you to the decision, tend to fade exactly when the choice is large and deliberate and you labor over it. The slow, careful thinking may be the part that's most truly yours. What the science quietly takes from you is smaller and stranger. Not your choices, your certainty about why you made them. And that leaves an odd figure standing where you always assumed the author was. If part of you decides in the dark and another part explains it afterward and believes its own explanation, then who exactly is the I that feels so calmly in control? The one who chose? Or the one narrating a choice it only half understands, forever a half step behind, always catching up? Maybe the freedom was never in the story. Maybe it's in being able to set the story down, to catch yourself mid-explanation, with the reason already forming, smooth, certain, ready, and to stop, and to say just once the most honest sentence there is. I don't actually know why I did that. It feels like losing something. It isn't. You were never quite the author you imagined yourself to be. You're something stranger, and maybe something freer. A mind watching itself decide, always a half step behind, and finally honest enough to wonder why.